What's good, YouTube and Twitch? We are live here, and you know the drunk streams. Some weird videos happen, but they come from Twitch onto YouTube, and today it's a pretty good topic once again. We're going to go into the top 10 changes I personally would make on the ban list. And some of my Twitch and YouTube chat here, they agree, disagree, but honorable mention for any list that I don't actually want to include in the top 10 is STRATOS. It comes up with any list discussion, I feel like, and fake list, if not true, STRATOS has to be at least around in the mention. And the other card that I want to mention here is Scapegoat as an honorable mention. I feel like it's on everybody's radar. It's on almost every ban list discussion, so I just wanted to take care of it here. Generating 4 tokens and being able to go through very little of your extra deck in order to create a Boral Load, a Boral Sword, a Firewall, just a huge Link monster with so little restrictions is way too powerful to be at 3 of the game. So these two cards combined, I feel like take up a huge portion of every ban list discussion. And I kind of wanted just to bypass them and go into the discussion that I wanted to have. So in our number 10 slot is Book of Moon. This card has no business, similar to Compulsory Evacuation Device on the last list, of even being on the list. Flipping cards face down has become less and less powerful, as you can't even do that face down defense to Link monsters themselves. They even eroded old meme cards that could maybe put cards down in face up attack position to get rid of their potential to put a Link monster face down. And full swing of things coming around, I think Book of Moon loses a bit of its power in terms of what it used to be and do. And yes, you could potentially stop early on monsters and combos from being able to be used as materials for a Link summon, but most decks have a way or an extender around this. So I think it's time, similar to Compulsory Evacuation Device, to see play at 3 of these things rather than just 1. It has no business, I think, being on the Forbidden and Limited list, a card all the way back from Pharaonic Guardian that has passed its time. And the number 9 position here, Cosmo Dark Destroyer. This is one that I really wanted to shake this list up in terms of discussion. I'd like to see this also all the way back to 3. This card has so much power, so much ability, in a deck that is doing nothing right now. Actually, another tuber, Asian Persuasion, really shocked us all in Zodiac format, showing that this deck could still be a contender at times, abusing cards like Full Force Virus. But here, it's kind of phased out, and at this point could really use a buff. And I think E-Telly's not necessarily it because E-Telly is so powerful, but Cosmo Dark Destroyer would be a great change to the deck, and I don't know that it would even become meta with this change, but I think it would be a great change of pace to be able to play kind of a rogue deck that still has some value, like Tin Can. We have Cosmojo, so many cards that are actually just awesome in this deck in terms of their interaction with the game, and having a boss monster like this at 3, I think this would be a cooler move than something like a Cliffort Towers in my book. Next up, I'd like to see in the number 8 position completely banned Sky Striker Ace KAGARI. This is the enabler of the deck that allows you to recur your cards in the same turn from the extra deck with relatively little presence at all. Yes, it's a hard once per turn, but this is what makes Hornet so broken. This is what makes Engage so broken. And in my opinion, if you cut this out of the engine, the other the other Link monster from the extra deck actually gives you this access that comes during the end phase, slower and more reasonable. Whereas this, if you're doing Hornet, you get another body with your extra Hornet on board, and you start comboing through your nightmares like it's nothing. But if you aren't able to recur your Hornet, herein lies the problem, in my opinion. So Hornet and all the spells and everything else, they're honestly okay if you take this away, where you can still play the engine and play it for the slower grind game rather than have it accelerated straight through the extra deck. So personally, that's where my problem with the deck aligns, but the OCG did hit Hornet. I'd love to hear your thoughts where you would hit Sky Strikers. Would you hit Engage, Hornet, or this piece? I think this could be one of the first banned Link monsters. But speaking of banned Link monsters, our next slots come up with this issue a bit. And our number 7 slot, Nightmare Goblin, has been on a lot of people's hit lists to be banned and is on mine personally as well. This is the Nightmare hit I would love to do and leave everything else alone, because the rest of the pieces are honestly great balanced transitions for co-links where you get to pop a back row, try to draw, it could get negated if we see changes like, you know, the Trick Stars are hit then cards like the Nightmares begin to be more reasonable because back row could overtake the format. But Nightmare Goblin gives you the ability to normal summon and draw and fix your hand out of your extra deck, as well as give a layer of protection to your cards by not letting them be targeted. I think this card is a little much for the extra link mechanic, and I think it's where it needs to be hit. A lot of people want to hit that, the ability to extra link, and this is one of the biggest extenders and transitional pieces into it that I definitely think could be done away with. I can't think of another Nightmare I'd personally want to hit, and I couldn't think of another Link monster I'd personally want to hit more than this, except for our next number 5 Link position. But we're going to go into number 6 first with Phoenix Blade. Oh yes, Mastered Interflex, please cry for me. Please do so. Phoenix Blade here. Mastered Interflex found a long time ago, and before it ever got busted and was playing it in fun decks. And it dates back to DDT, right? Where you were actually able to abuse this as a discard cost over and over. These days, though, it powers up Isolde to where it makes Isolde the problem, and if we take this away, Isolde's not as much of a problem. It's still an extender, it's still an amazing piece, but you don't get a recurring discard fodder over and over and over. And personally, I'd like to see this just completely eradicated from the format. I think when you go back into Yu-Gi-Oh! And you have a card game that's able to re-access its entire card pool, you get a card that ends up breaking itself somewhere along the line. And for me, Divine Sword Phoenix Blade is this. Feel free to defend this, not defend. We're in new lands and words here.
Personally,
go ahead.
I think they should just ban every other warrior in the game.
How do you feel about that, YouTube?
So, honestly, as much as I love that card and the things it does, the honest truth is, it is in 1,000,001 ways better than Sinister Serpent ever was for the exact same reasons. It's even since it came out. It's much faster.
That's a comparison I haven't heard. It kind of is the modern day sped up Sinister Serpent. That's a really good one, man.
Yep, it absolutely is.
I appreciate that input. That's actually something I would have never thought to say. And this is why we have open chat during streams, boys. But in our number 5 position is that Link monster that I did mention. Firewall Dragon has been a continuous problem for us in terms of its ability to not be a hard once per turn. While I personally hate errata cards, this is one card I wouldn't mind doing it. But without an errata, this deserves to be banned. I'd like to just straight up see a new Cyverse version of it where it gets summoned and is Cyverse locked and you finally break that archetype somehow in. But Firewall, for me, it just does too much degeneracy. Whenever you see it, Needle Fiber, or Summon Sorcerer, something bad is happening in the game that shouldn't be necessarily happening. So for me, this is the ultimate problem in Link monsters. One of those 3 Link monsters is on my list to be the first banned ever Link monster in my book. And yes, it's an ace monster. That doesn't stop it from being really bad for our card game. But in the number 4 position, I have a change that comes with condition. I'd like to see Astrograph Sorcerer at 2, as long as you take care of Electromite to 1 or 0. Because being able to recur Astrograph after Astrograph or recur Electromite after Electromite is just too much. I don't want to kill Pendulums, but after seeing their power in these formats, they should not be underestimated. They should be hit in some way, shape, or form, but I'd also like to give back to them when they hit them with something of reason. And Astrograph is where my thumb lands on. This didn't necessarily deserve to get all the way hit. Yes, you can recur it over and over as long as Electromite's the problem, but if you limit the extra deck or ban the extra deck monster, it's not as much of a problem anymore. So I'd love to see this card back. It's actually one of the beefiest hand traps at 2,500 that's not a battle hand trap, and I really do respect it. But in our number 3 position, something I'd like to see come back, as might be the theme with the rest of this list, Pot of Avarice straight up to 3. Not 2, not 1, just 3. Almost every deck that puts so many cards in the graveyard continues to access and resource the graveyard in modern day Yu-Gi-Oh! So this card, I think, you won't be activating necessarily multiple in a turn most of the time, but it will allow you to recur your extra deck in some instances. It takes away power from trouble cards like Soul Charge and Monster Reborn and other cards in the game, and then also gives you access in hand to maybe fix it out and get a hand trap or real traps to your hand and promote that kind of advantage in the game. Where Pot of Desires takes away your resources permanently, this card offers them back, but then takes them away from the graveyard, which is heavily accessed in this day and age. So I really do like this card. It's a change that was made to the OCG to have it. I believe it's at 2 or 1. I think it's 2 over there.
It is at 3.
Oh, it's at 3 now? Okay. So I definitely do like this card as an option to come back, and I don't think it would be high impact, but I think it would definitely benefit certain decks. Now, number 2. This fell as a victim to so many other things. Bring back my Lithosasm to 3, and here's why. Dinosaurs didn't end up doing too much in our current meta. They didn't really do much at YCSs, if at all. They were terrorizing regionals thanks to Dingwong. Lithosasm was hit for a fake format, for Worlds format, and perhaps its future implication of problems. Dinosaurs did not have their proper time to shine. I'd love to see Lithosasm actually have a chance, especially with all these reprinted diagrams in your hands. I think Lithosasm definitely should be a card to be considered to come back off of this ban list all the way to 3. It's just an engine, as the True Dracos were hit, that should have had its time to shine. Dinosaurs should have had more of a time to shine. Yes, should old Dinosaurs ended up doing something, but if you had Lithosasm here, I think that this would have been the way to play it, and I don't think it would have been too busted, and as time has moved on, I still don't think it would be too busted. I think this would be a nice change of pace to the game, giving a budget option that was given to us, Dinosaurs via the structure deck, an ability to play with a relatively cheap card, and I would love to see it. But in my number 1 position, complete curveball, a card that doesn't deserve to be on the ban list, Cyberstein. This is just a sign of the times with Konami USA that doesn't look at the OCG and see what little impact it has. We have cards like a parallel to this card, Waking the Dragon, that just allows you to do what Cyberstein does. It allows you to just summon from the extra deck and go ham. But it depends on your opponent. This card depends on your opponent not having an answer. We have 3 Infinite Impermanence, 3 Effect Veiler, and other cards and realistic trap cards that could handle this card. And I think you should be allowed to play this if you really want to set up with it. Any meta could develop around just easily stopping this with a main or side deck, and 5,000 life points is such a cost that you could just get run over the moment it stops. I get that one card can promote really degenerate extra deck monsters, but it's fine in the OCG. It has been fine, and I'd like to see it here. It's not really a sack factor card. Drawing it or getting it out is possible in multiple ways. You're probably not machine duping it, and you're not replicating its effect multiple times either. You're not likely using the card you're bringing out as a resource material for link summoning. You're bringing it out as the boss monster. Oh, by the way, Kaijus, 2K15. We have so many answers to Cyberstein and the monsters it brings out, even if you didn't have negation in the first place. So this is a kind of a cry for all those cards stuck on the ban list that don't deserve to be stuck there to come on off. But let me know your changes you make here in August as Worlds is wrapping up, what you'd like to see come off the ban list, and how do you feel about like decks that get hit from Worlds format like Lithosasm? How do you realistically feel about that happening? I personally am not a fan. It's a made-up format, and I would love to see realistic implications from our metagame in the TCG to be hit on our TCG ban list. But comment down below, and thanks YouTube and Twitch chat for joining me. Thanks for putting up with Drunk John here in this video. And the best discussions and topics come from the stream, not from myself, but from the stream. So like, we wouldn't have those discussions without them. So hopefully you do appreciate them long term when we're talking about them. Thanks for watching.